Good morning. It is Tuesday, October 15th, 2024. I'll call to order the Story County Board of Supervisors meeting. Please stand if you are able to say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt today's agenda?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Merkin,
Aye.
Basil,
Aye.
Hens, aye. Now is the time for public comment number one. This comment period is for the public to address topics on today's agenda. If anyone in the meeting room would like to make public comment, please come forward. Or if you're on Zoom, please raise your hand and we will call on you. And seeing no rush for public comment, we'll close public comment number one. We'll move on to bid opening for the Story County Sheriff Range House. Good morning, Joby and Jeff.
Good morning, board. We've got, I believe, 6 bids to open today. So we've been through this a couple of times.
Yeah.
So,
Making a habit out of this every
just
week.
to get rolling. Yeah, and I'll just start with the first one I grabbed, which is from Harold Pike Construction out of Ames, Iowa. There is bid bond is present for 5% of the total bid. You can organize that. for me? Thanks, appreciate it.
That's a- saves some time.
Okay. My fingers over. Yes, show acknowledgement of addendum number 1 and addendum number 2. We have base bid of $865,000 $865,000.00. And then alternate number 1 to provide a 4-inch concrete paving under east building canopy. It's an alternate ad for 15,000. 0 cents. It's 15000.00.
The one that was completion date or.
Oh, yep. And then
I think it's on that second form, yeah.
30 calendar weeks to complete.
How many, excuse me, how many did you say?
30
30,
weeks.
thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Moving on to number 2 is Cruise Commercial Contracting. Their location is not on the outer envelope. I will get that once I open it. They are out of Des Moines, Iowa. And they have bid bond for 5% of the total bid. Yeah. Maybe. I think it's the same size envelopes. There you go. That. Acknowledgement of addendum 1 and addendum 2. Base bid of 1,100,000 and 0 cents. It's 1100000.00. 24 calendar weeks for completion. Alternate ad number one for the concrete paving is 8,800. 8800.0.
What did you say the waste to completion was?
Was it 20?
24.
24.
Before, thank you.
Third bid is from Edge Commercial out of Grimes, Iowa. Bid bond is included for 5% of bid amount. Acknowledgement of addendum 1 and addendum 2. All right, base bid of $906,700 and no cents. 906,700.0. 32 weeks for completion. Alternate ad one is $5,800. 5800.0. Okay, next bid is from Ike and Day Construction. Ike is spelled E-I-C-K. They are out of Johnston, Iowa. Bid bond is included for 5% of total bid. Acknowledgement of addendum 1 and addendum 2. Base bid of $749,800, 0 cents. 749,800.0. 30 weeks for completion. Alternate ad one, 11,500. 11500.0. Next bid is from Graphite Construction Group out of Des Moines, Iowa. Bid bond is included for 5% of the total bid. Acknowledgement of addendum 1 and addendum 2. Base bid of 704,000 and 0 cents. 704,000.0. 26 weeks for completion. Alternate add one is $6,000, 6000.0. Okay. Final bid is from Jensen Builders out of Fort Dodge, Iowa. Bid bond is included for 5% of the total bid amount. Acknowledgement of addendum 1 and addendum 2. Base bid of $973,000.00. 973,000.0. 28 weeks for completion. Alternate add one is $20,710.00. 20710.0.
Okay.
That's all of our bids. Okay. We will review bids and probably be back next week with a recommendation.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on, we have consideration of proclamation recognizing October 2024 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Supervisor Merkin, will you start us off?
Yes, thank you. Whereas home should be a place of warmth, unconditional love, tranquility, and security. And for most of us, home and family can indeed be counted among our greatest blessings. Tragically, for many Americans, these are blessings that are tarnished by violence and fear. And whereas every 9 seconds, a woman in the United States is assaulted by an intimate partner, and an average of 3 women are murdered by intimate partners in the United States every day, and a person experiencing strangulation in a relationship is 7 times more likely to be murdered by their partner. And according to the American Psychological Association, the presence of a gun in a domestic violence situation increases the risk of homicide by 500%.
And whereas according to the Bureau of Justice Statistics Crime Data Brief, intimate partner violence, women accounted for 85% of the victims of intimate partner violence, men for approximately 15%. And whereas women and men are not the only targets, children, the elderly, family pets, and responding law enforcement officers are counted among the victims. And whereas according to the National Resource Center of Domestic Violence, approximately 23% of LGBTQ men and 50% of LGBTQ women experience abuse at the hands of their intimate partners.
And whereas domestic violence costs an estimated $8.3 billion annually in medical care, mental health services, and lost productivity on the job. Women, men, and children living with domestic violence suffer higher rates of physical injuries, chronic health problems, depression, PTSD, attempted suicide, substance abuse, behavior problems for children, and homelessness. Now therefore be it resolved that we, the Story County Board of Supervisors, do hereby proclaim October 2024 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month and urge our citizens to observe this month by becoming aware of the tragedy of domestic violence and supporting those who are working towards its end.
I move the proclamation.
Second,
Been moved and seconded. Basil?
Aye.
Merkin?
aye.
Hens, aye. It is adopted. Thank
Do we
you.
have people here for a picture? No.
No. Next, we have agency report, Storytime Child Care Center Annual Report. Morning, Jane. How are you?
Good morning.
Good morning.
You'll want to pull that microphone a little bit closer. It'll sound really loud to you, but it helps pick up for everyone else.
Okay.
kind of nervous.
Don't be
I'm-
nervous.
I'm Jane Underhill, the director at Storytime in Maxwell. Storytime's been open since 1991, and I've been the director there for 29 years. Storytime is licensed for 42 kids, and at this time we have 30. We have 8 infants, 13 full-time kids, 7 are on a waiting list, 9 school agers, and 2 are on a waiting list. I employ 10 during the summer and 9 during the school year. At this point, I've not had a lot of luck with people applying for jobs. That's why Storytime's enrollment is lower. Storytime, our program itself's doing great. I have a great group of positive teachers, parents, and staff. We all work together great, real good, and have a lot of parent involvement, which is nice. We've been working on getting, improving our playground for quite a few years. We've finally got another step further. We've gotten bids for improving and upgrading the playground and also for painting the interior of the daycare. And now I'm in the process of trying to find grants to help pay for that. And I would like to thank the county for its support to Storytime. It's very much appreciated from all the parents and staff. Thank you.
Any questions?
I don't have any questions, I just know the service that you provide your community and how valuable it is. So thank you for the work you've done over the years.
You're
and
welcome.
Continue to do.
I enjoy it.
You'd have to.
It's too bad you can't get more applicants because you're 9 on the waiting list. You have room for if you had
No,
staffing.
I've
Yeah,
not
Is
a
it-
lot of people knocking on anybody's doors right now.
yeah.
It's sad.
That's the one thing. We have such a low unemployment rate, and what that means is it's hard to find people.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you for the work you do. We appreciate it.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Jane.
Thank you.
Next, we have consideration of minutes.
I move approval of minutes.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Merkin,
Aye.
Basil.
Aye.
Hens, aye. Consideration of personnel actions.
I'd move approval.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Basil,
Aye.
Merkin,
Aye.
Hens, aye. Anyone pulling anything from consent agenda?
No.
If not, I'll take a motion.
I move approval of agenda items as presented.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Merkin,
Aye.
Basil,
Aye.
Hens, aye. We are now down to public hearing items. We have second consideration of ordinance 319, amending sections of chapter 85, general provisions and definitions, and chapter 90, conditional uses of the Story County Code of Ordinances, land development regulations for a text amendment to allow truck trailer and RV garages as conditional uses in an A1 zoning district.
Wow, all in one breath.
I know. There's staff here to talking on this.
Good
Oh, Leanne.
morning.
Sorry.
Good
Good morning,
morning.
Liam.
Morning. I won't repeat what you just said. I do want to start out, it was exceptionally well done. This is second consideration of ordinance number 319. Again, it is a text amendment request to amend sections of 85 and chapter 90 of the Story County, Iowa Code of Ordinances. It would be to allow for review and approval process for semi, tractor, trailer, and RV repair and service garages. First consideration was held last Tuesday, and at that meeting, the board took action to approve the application as modified and presented by staff and recommended by the Planning and Zoning Commission. And then you further modified it, which removed language regarding the proposed supplemental standard I dealing with solid and hazardous waste disposal, removing references to the Emergency Management Agency from the ordinance language. Last week, Mr. Ian Freeman with Camper Commander did attend the October 8th meeting and did respond to the board's questions. If you have any questions on the presentation that was given last week, I believe Bryce has it available and I can refer to it as needed. Staff has not received any public comments since last week's public hearing. And with that, we do recommend approval of the proposed text amendment on second consideration and waive the third consideration for the proposed ordinance. The memo that was prepared for the Board of Supervisors included your alternatives. I do want to note ordinance number 319 that it was on the agenda did illustrate the changes as recommended and acted upon by the Board of Supervisors last week. With that, I'll stop and ask if there are any questions.
Any questions for Leanne?
No.
No.
Okay, I'll open the public meeting. If anyone would like to make public comment, please come forward in the public meeting room to the table in front of us, or if you're on Zoom, please raise your hand and we'll call on you. And seeing no one wanting to make public comment, we'll close public comment for the hearing. We'll close the public hearing and I'll take a motion.
I would move approval of ordinance 319, approving code of ordinance text amendment as put forth in case TA 24-00002 as modified and presented by staff and recommended by the Planning and Zoning Commission and further modified by the Board of Supervisors at our October 8th meeting on second consideration and waive third consideration.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Basil?
Aye.
Merkin?
Aye.
Edens, aye. Motion's approved. Now we'll move on to additional items. We have discussion and consideration of resolution 25-27, the FY 25 appropriation amendment.
Good morning, Board.
Good morning.
morning.
Lisa.
Good morning, Lisa.
I decided to go ahead and appropriate the rest of the dollars. Have you appropriate the rest of the budgeted dollars for this fiscal year? We appropriated 50% of the dollars at the beginning, and usually in November, December, we do the other 50. Since November, December is getting really busy for me, I thought, let's get it done. So what this does is appropriate the remaining dollars for all the departments.
Any questions?
No.
Nope.
No. I'll take a motion.
I move approval of resolution number 25.27.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Merkin?
Aye.
Basil?
Aye.
Edens, aye. It's approved. Thanks,
Thank you.
Lisa.
Thanks.
Now we have departmental reports. We have animal control quarterly report. Again, no kitties, no doggies. You do have some cute ones up online.
Good morning, Board.
Morning.
Good morning, Anna.
In the third quarter of 2024, we took in 148 animals and adopted out 136 of them and returned 16 to their owners. We responded to 40 animal control calls for strays, confined and unconfined cats and dogs. Most of them were confined and unconfined cats and dogs. Currently in foster care, we have 26 kittens and 1 rabbit. And we participated in a few community events, such as taking animals to local care facilities and several shelter story times. Social media campaigns the last quarter really boosted donations and engagement. And we filled our vacant shelter attendant position and also partnered with local groups such as First Interstate Bank, who volunteered to help around the shelter with cleaning and various tasks. And we also received recognition from Best Friends Animal Society for a save rate above 90% for 2023. And I brought that to show.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
Congratulations.
Wonderful.
That is so awesome.
Do you have any questions for me?
No questions.
No
Thank you.
questions. Just thank you and your staff for all you do.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on, we have a planning and developments quarterly report.
Good morning again. I think Bryce has my presentation. Thank you, Bryce. I'm going to start with the slide that shows the third quarter preliminary zoning permits compared for the last 10 years. Definitely you see this last quarter from July through September of 2024 has been very busy for planning and development. Busiest quarter over the past 10 years, in fact. Broken down for this quarter into 22 dwellings. That's what's in the blue. And then 23 other types of zoning permits, and those include solar installations, additions, accessory structures, fences, decks, and hydrous ammonia facility and in-ground pool. So the entire gamut of applications we could have. Next one, please. Slide 3 now shows where those average dwelling values have been for the past 5 years for the third quarter for single family dwellings. Right around that $341,000 is our average for the third quarter. That's kind of definitely up from last year, but in line with the prior 2 years of 22 and 21. Next slide, please. In addition to our zoning permits, we have a flurry of many other permits and activities this last quarter. 911 addresses you see are way out there. That is related to the new dwellings and then number of those that we've had during the quarter. Next slide. This slide does show that spatial distribution of where activities occurred, definitely throughout Story County. I just mentioned the 911 permits on the previous slide. If you look at this, it doesn't look as many. They're under the residential brown. We didn't really have them show both because of the scale. You couldn't see it, but it's definitely scattered throughout the county. Next slide, please. In addition to permits, we have received a number of development review applications. Again, this is a 10-year perspective of those for the third quarter. This last quarter, we had conditional use permits and subdivisions, which took up the majority of the 18 cases. But we've also been processing a rezoning, a variance, and a vacation application, and the text amendment that you just took action on did not show up in this, and that would be another one. Next slide. Thank you. This slide is something new that we haven't really presented to the Board of Supervisors. I wanted to drill down in and see for conditional use permits that have been modified, and that's an official process that's in our ordinance. The numbers that we're looking at, it seemed like we've been having a kind of increase of this year. And as we drilled into it, we are indeed experiencing an increase. On the right-hand side, you see the 2024. This is to date. This is not for the specific quarter, third quarter. But insignificant modifications are those that are approved by staff. Minor are ones that go right to the Board of Adjustment. And then major are a whole new conditional use permit. Definitely this year we have exceeded all of last year thus far. And I will, as we close out this year, calendar year, I'll share where we ended up for the entire calendar year in this regard. Next slide, please. Moving to floodplain management. Really what I want to highlight on this slide is I made a mistake. It should not be September 30th. It's October 30th. My apologies. For the community assistance visit, I wish it was already September 30th and it was done with, but we are looking forward to the Iowa Department of Natural Resources coming in and visiting with our office on October 30th to do our community assistance visit. What they have done is provided us with a list of materials we need to have ready for that visit with DNR officials, including such things of all of our permit activity for the past 5 years, our ordinance, our modifications to our ordinances, our outreach steps. We did request this to come in so that both Andrea and I have a good solid footing as we look at going forward with our floodplain management program. I do want to just touch on the ISWAP training that was held this past quarter. Now all three, Marcus, Andrea, and myself, are certified through the Iowa Certification for Inspection and Maintenance of Stormwater Practices. That's a good certification to have. Next slide, please. We've actively been dealing with enforcement cases this past quarter. We've had 5 complaints received. One was inside city limits and referred to that community, so we did not have to deal with any action regarding that. From that, we did either go forward and start active enforcement, or it's likely still pending. We have had a home business violation closed out. We have 2 active uses of properties without permits. So whether it's a type of activity that would require a conditional use permit or something else, that is something we're working with both those sites on towards voluntary compliance. We've had 3 active junk salvage yards that were established without permits. One, we have a citation from court that we are working with, trying to reach some resolution on the property. We have 1 scheduled for court this week, in fact. And then we have 1 working on voluntary compliance. And then coming at us for some pending enforcement, we have a site that has had signs erected without permit and are located in the floodplain as well. We have 2 instances where, again, properties are being used without the proper permits in place, like a conditional use permit. And we have 7 structures that we have been notified have been built without the required permits that we will be adding to our enforcement caseload. Next slide, please. The next few slides just recall what we have brought to the Board of Supervisors and then the Planning and Zoning Commission and Board of Adjustment. We've been in front of the board several times over the past couple months with items. If you want to just go to the next one, please, next slide. And then Planning and Zoning Commission has met all 3 months during this quarter, July, August, September. These are all items that did come before the Board of Supervisors, if appropriate, other than the conditional use permits, which went to the Board of Adjustment. The Planning and Zoning Commission did take action in August to change who the representative is to the Story County Economic Development Group. Debbie Youngkin has been representing the Story County, the Planning and Zoning Commission as an ex officio member to the Story County Economic Development Group. Bart Clark will now assume that responsibility at the next meeting. Next slide, please. And then Board of Adjustment has been pretty active as well. It was really an interesting summer for the Board of Adjustment. In some cases, they've been taking action on items that have been a little bit unusual than what they have in the past. So it's been an opportunity for us all to have opportunity for us all to learn from these different cases that have come forward. Next slide, please. In regards to other activities, as you know, our office does the plats survey and retracement plats for Story County. That transfers from the recorder's office to planning and development a year or so ago. This past quarter, we did 35 plats survey, 96 for the year. So definitely will surpass 100. We don't have a trend from year to year. We'll start that with this year. We did conduct 48 inspections, whether that's a zoning permit inspection for setbacks or a floodplain inspection. We are kicking off our annual review of land development regulations, which will be coming to the board later this fall, early December. We've been meeting with the Housing Action Plan, and on November 14th, we are scheduling a resource fair for our residents and our manufactured home communities. The invitations will go out this week to our agencies throughout Story County to invite them to the resource fair. It will be located here in Nevada at Gates Hall. We also have the invites to go out to our manufactured home community residents and we'll be able to offer them transportation to and from the resource fair courtesy of HERDA. And then we also, if they need childcare, we'll organize some childcare. I think this will be really a good opportunity to respond to some of the concerns we heard from the surveys that were sent out last year to our residents in our manufactured home communities. And I look forward to seeing how this goes forward and the outcomes from this. We've also, MIPA who's under contract with Story County, as you know, to help us implement our housing action plan, has sent out a questionnaire to builders and developers regarding what limitations exist to help construction of affordable housing in Story County communities. Once we have some of those responses back, we will come back to the Board of Supervisors and share the information to the board. We continue to meet as a group on the housing action plan. Right now, our focus has been the resource fair, but we have some pretty exciting programs that will be coming to the board here shortly. I have been attending the Communities of Excellence meetings as I'm able to, as they're talking about housing and Story County's role in that. I do want to thank you for proclaiming the month of October as National Community Planning Month. We'll start the outreach plan to celebrate that on social media this week, working with Bryce. And then I do want to just take a minute and thank the planning and development staff for their professionalism and the ease with which they have let me come back home or go back home to the planning and development department. They're amazing. And we also have two really good volunteer board and commission, our Board of Adjustment and our Planning and Zoning Commission. All of the members they take the time to read before our meetings, ask very well thought of, crafted questions, and engage applicants as well in the process. Last thing on this slide I want to talk about just briefly, we have been using a program called CitizenServe for the past couple of years on our online permitting software. We have been spending some time looking at geo permits, and I can share a link if you'd like. Geo permits is a Schneider-based product. So Schneider is who does the Story County Assessor's website. Geo permits links directly with our Beacon website. It makes it a lot easier from the user standpoint. We've been having demos of the program, working with our IT department, environmental health. We've invited Darren, the county engineer, as well to attend these demos. And very likely in the near future, we might be coming to the board for a request with a quote. It's actually a cheaper program than what we have currently, and it will be more robust in the end. So stay tuned on that. And next slide, please, which I think is my last slide. Just upcoming items. Again, the CAV, Community Assistance Visit. I think any of you are invited to come join us if you want to get a sense of what we're doing. We'll be coming to the board over the next couple months with several items related to the vacation request for 2 roads that are down by Slater. The road renaming and naming of the frontage roads associated with the Interstate 30 interchange improvements will be coming here shortly. We're starting that process. The urban renewal area plan amendments and chapter 8 modifications are next week for you to consider. And then really the key on this one is we have a lot we're doing and a lot of upcoming items coming at your way. Are there questions for me? And again, thank you for allowing me to join you via Zoom.
I
Thanks,
have,
No, go ahead.
I have a comment and a question. And first, one is thanks for your staff for some good work they may have done quite a while ago, but I just found out about. Last Friday, I toured Alliance Solar Farm on the Iowa State ground, and they have an interesting project going on there that you might be interested about with the local foods. group. They are actually growing food under solar panels and also in test plots to see how useful that can be, and what they're coming up with is it's a very good possible use for solar farms. But I was asked if I knew the folks at Planning and Development, because the person who gave me the tour said, and I'm not sure you were there yet, Leanne, but I know some of your staff who were and worked with them, they were very helpful in getting a variance because they had to have a variance to put some equipment as close as it needed to be to the street. So anyway, your staff, the person said your staff were very good, did an excellent job and helped expedite that. So that was appreciated by Alliant. So here's a question I have. I was looking at, you have modifications come up on conditional use permits. My question is, well, I guess there's two questions. The first one there is, are those applicant initiated? I mean, are people saying, gee, I have a conditional use permit and maybe I need to modify it? That'd be really good news if people were doing that. But I just wondered if they are, or if it's because of other things that come up that the modifications arise.
Yes, they are, yes, they are initiated by the applicant. The vast majority that we see are cell tower equipment changeouts or communications tower changeouts.
Okay, thank you. So that would be businesses rather than individuals. So okay.
Correct. Now, I will just add on to that. There are some instances that they have an idea of something they want to do, and they think they can do it just within the guidance and the guidelines of the conditional use permit. And so staff spends time looking back at the original permit and finds out it really is not something appropriate. So we say, you need to do this.
Okay, thank you. That's good. And second thing, you have, they're in single digits, but some high numbers on people using property without getting permits that they need, and even construction going on without permits. I'm kind of assuming that construction is not anything a developer would be doing or a builder, because they probably understand our ordinances. It's probably people doing, like putting up a shed or something like that. Or do we have people who should know better who are not getting permits?
It's largely people that, let me say it this way. One of the comments we hear commonly is, I didn't realize I would need a permit in the county, even though we've had zoning since 1958. So it is a lot of times people not understanding that they needed a permit. We do have some instances where, because whether concrete is coming or something, we do have some instances where work is done without the proper permits when people should know better.
I just wondered if there was anything that could be done about that. I know in the past, Planning and Development has had meetings with developers, and reached out to them, but it sounds to me like it's probably things that owners of land are doing themselves, and it's not their business, so they don't know. But if there's any way we could get ahead of that, because it's like our applicant we had last week. He didn't know that he needed a permit, and we had to go back and revise ordinance, and it's always better if people have knowledge. So if I think of getting any bright ideas, I'll share them with you. But I just really wish that people would understand that just because you live out in a rural area doesn't mean you can do anything you want to with your land. And that seems like something we've been trying to get people to understand, that there's zoning out in the unincorporated area for a reason. There's permitting processes, all of that for a reason. A lot of that is actually to protect people, and help them what they're doing. But it seems like it's hard to get that message out.
It has been a constant struggle for, I would guess, probably since 1958. We try, but any magic wands anyone has that we're willing to try everything and anything.
A lot of small town newsletters go out to the rural area. You know, I'm just thinking maybe the Nevada magazine that comes out, the Gilbert newsletter, just all the, you know, whatever newsletters there are. Maybe if you could occasionally put in little reminders in those. It might be a
Yeah.
little confusing to city residents, but at the same time, I don't know how you get town incorporated unless you take advantage of existing newsletters.
Library newsletters too.
Libraries, that could be.
Or have you put something in like the assessment mailing or something as a reminder? I mean, I think there's some brainstorming that probably could be done to.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's all I had. Thank you, Leanne. That's an excellent report.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, my only question was about the modifications. So, thank you.
Thanks, Leanne.
Thank you all.
All right, now we have other reports. We have the fiscal year 25 quarterly financial report.
Bring that one up. I guess I have to come over here. Quarterly financial report. At the end of September, 25% of the year. As you can see, we've spent 19% of the budget. 5 departments are over 25, but very, very little over 25, so not a big concern. We are, our fund balances are shown down there, or the percent of expenses out of each fund, primary fund is shown down there. 27% on the supplemental, that's normal because that's where insurance is paid out of, the property insurance, which is a big chunk right at the beginning of the fiscal. Revenues are on the second page. 9 departments are over 25% on revenues. Overall, we're about 11% ahead on where we budgeted for revenues. That 44% on countywide is, I want to say at the end of September, the property 46 or 47%. So that's where most of that 44% is from, is the property tax revenues. Questions?
Looking good.
Yes, it is.
What did you say?
I said that we're looking good.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have any questions.
Any questions, Supervisor Markey?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on. We've got discussion and direction on amendment with Youth and Shelter Services, the American Rescue Plan Agreement, and deobligation of funds.
Good morning, Board.
Good morning.
Morning.
Yep.
So I do believe we also have a representative from YSS online as well. So I bring before you for discussion and consideration and direction with Youth and Shelter Services, otherwise known as YSS, to amend their award contract and deobligate some of their project funds. Part of what we have been meeting with YSS for several meetings here and have come up with a plan we'd like to propose to you. Part of what we're asking for is to realign and readjust some of their budget items. One would be to combine line items 1.0 rental assistance and 4.0 rent deposits into the same line. A revision under staff personnel, just to update some of their staff titles, and they've had some transitions with staff over the past few months. We'd like to suggest removing the percentages of time required for each position, and essentially remove the individual line items from 2A to 2E. Just as we were working with them for ease of helping them to spend down appropriately towards their programming, but not increase staff personnel dollar amounts. We'd like to see more of the money to go towards programming. We're recommending that change. And this has all led to, after some research and conversation, and following what they're doing for programming, that we'd like to deobligate an amount of 181,500, so 181,500.00 to be deobligated from their program. I would take any questions, or if you'd like to refer any to Hope, who's on Zoom with YSS.
Crystal, now I've joined you with some of your meetings with YSS, and the rental assistance and rent deposits. I think you also eliminated the utilities,
That is correct.
mainly
Not-
because a lot of the apartments that folks are moving into already had utilities were included.
Correct. We didn't eliminate it totally. We just reduced the amount.
Amount,
for that
right,
very
that's right.
reason.
Yeah, 'cause a
Mhm.
lot of them already had that. Thank you for
Yes.
that correction.
And can you explain the reason for removing the percentages of time?
Yes, we were spending a lot of time and struggle, really trying to figure out the time, the percentage based on their salaries. And every angle we came up with was increasing that staff position category for personnel. So we just couldn't quite come up with the right formula. We're still asking them to report back to us when they submit a claim, like, here's where the staff was. Yep, they are assigned the ARPA account. But we just couldn't increase that amount. Didn't
And they were
feel-
spending more time paperwork wise
Correct.
than
Just so much.
actually doing the job.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, okay.
we-
Makes sense.
And this will allow us to continue to give the direct care staff their increases. We don't want them to remain stagnant. We want to have their salaries increasing. So for instance, my time overtime should decrease and more money would go to the direct care staff.
I agree with what she's saying. That's part of what we've been talking about.
Any other questions?
I don't have any additional questions. Just thank you for all of the work that is going into making sure that our reporting is correct and everyone is staying on track with spending the funds down. And 'cause I know it's a lot of work for everybody, both the grantees and our staff.
So what's our remaining balance right now on ARPA?
What?
For an internal,
Unencumbered or unobligated,
Okay, so
or not obligated, I should say.
117,646.63 is the remaining revenue loss that has not been assigned to any project,
So, and we're adding the 181 to that.
correct?
So we got about 299.
146.
And that has to be obligated by the end of this
No,
December.
no,
No,
it's revenue loss.
it's all revenue loss.
It's all revenue loss. Right now, we have up to 10 million for revenue loss and 5.9 before today is what is committed to revenue loss. So it's a little over 6 million
Okay.
that will be,
So we're way underneath.
so
that.
we're okay on the revenue loss.
And we have, so we could hold on to that money and utilize that until December 2026.
Correct. Administration and revenue loss are two of the admin of the program, and revenue loss are the two areas that do not need to be obligated by the end of December.
Okay. Good news.
And
Yeah.
so you're needing direction from us on how to move
Yeah.
forward, correct?
yes. So I would need direction on an amendment to the YSS ARPA agreement. And that would include what I've outlined, 1 through 5, which includes the de-obligations of funds from their program.
And then you'd put that on what would be next week's agenda or the week after's agenda?
I can, depending on what you agree to, I can have that on next week.
Okay.
Mhm.
I think that sounds like,
Is there,
I would like to see that next week.
Yeah, I think that sounds fine.
would you need a separate, something for the agenda for the movement of the funds?
I think we can just put that in the
No.
motion, right?
That action will change all my worksheets.
again.
Okay.
Again.
And that is updated on the S drive.
Yeah.
So the information is out there
I appreciate
and I will
that.
update it again today.
Super. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Anything else that you need, Crystal?
I think I'm good for this one. Thank you.
All right, good.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any upcoming agenda items?
No, not at this time.
I will have, but probably won't be for a couple weeks. The Central Iowa Workforce CEO board that I'm on, we're revising our 28E agreement. And so that will be on our agenda, but we've got a couple other board meetings before that will be coming up. My hope is to have it before the end of the year, but just to give you a little update on that. If there's nothing else, we'll move on to public comment number 2, comments from the public on items not on this agenda. The board may not take any action on the comments due to the requirements of open meetings law, but may do so in the future. Did anyone want to make public comment? If you're on Zoom, please raise your hand, or in the public meeting room, come on in. Okay, we'll close public comment. Number 2, liaison assignments committee meeting updates and announcements. Supervisor Merkin?
Thank you. Shortly I have a meeting with Emergency Management Agency staff to discuss plans for relocation there, and then this afternoon, meeting on the continuing work we're doing to have joint meetings of the headwaters and the Iowa Creek WMA. We're making good progress there. People are excited about doing that. Tomorrow afternoon, Stepping Stones Childcare groundbreaking in Slater. We'll be there, and Thursday morning have another webinar on some broadband money. The BEAD webinar is in the morning, and then I'll be gone in the afternoon on Thursday. Don't seem to have anything on my calendar Friday. And Monday, I have a MIPA Executive Committee meeting. That's it.
All right, Supervisor Faisal?
Oh, Emergency Management Commission meets tomorrow night. Sorry about that.
Nope, that's our.
That was going to be my first question.
Aha, no, it still is.
This afternoon, I have a NACO Central Region meeting and then Story County Housing Trust. And then tonight I have Central Iowa Regional Housing Authority. Tomorrow morning, I have a Housing Action Plan meeting and then NACO Arts and Culture Commission meeting right before the Stepping Stones groundbreaking. And then tomorrow night, I have a CCJ Executive Board meeting that I'm hoping to hop off of a little bit early so I can attend the emergency management meeting if possible. Thursday morning, I believe I'm on KHOI. And then taking my dad to a doctor's appointment. And then I have a Zoom webinar in the afternoon and a wellness committee meeting. Friday, looks like we have a Go Green Team committee meeting, I think. And that would be it on my Friday so far. Well, I think I'm missing something. Yeah, that's it. I don't have any meetings on Monday.
I have a personal appointment tomorrow morning, afternoon. I have a meeting down in Des Moines. I will miss the Stepping Stones groundbreaking. Thursday, I have Aging Resources meeting, and we have Halloween Food Fest. Yeah, my treats that I brought a week early, so. Friday morning, I have the Central Iowa Workforce Committee meeting that I mentioned. Then I also have a meeting with Christel on ARPA. And on Monday, I have a lunch meeting, and then I have a Friendship Arc meeting in the afternoon. That's all I have going on for this week so far. I'm sure as soon as I close out the meeting, another meeting will pop up. And I just want to do a reminder before we adjourn that in absentee voting begins tomorrow. There's in-person that will begin at our administration building and is available until 4:30. And then they will also have Saturday, October 26th and Saturday, November 2nd available for voting, as well as they'll have satellite voting locations, and you can look online for those satellite voting locations. And if there's nothing else, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Merkin,
Aye.
Basil,
Aye.
Edens, aye. We are adjourned.